From a colossal ship, laden with 4,300 cars, tragically capsizing just 23 minutes after departure, to a catastrophic nuclear test in the Pacific Ocean, a chemical factory in Nevada erupting in flames, and an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, labeled by experts as the worst environmental disaster in history, we present to you 5 of the costliest mistakes in human history. Number 5. Surfside, Florida is a small town located in Miami-Dade County with a population of about 5,600 people. The town features residential beach communities, including several multi-story condominiums situated next to Surfside Beach. Unless you have lived or vacationed there, you may not have heard of Surfside, Florida before June 24, 2021. On that day, the Champlain Towers South, one of the condominium complexes in Surfside, collapsed unexpectedly, causing everyone's heart to skip a collective beat. The Champlain Towers South was the first building in a 3-tower condominium complex built in 1981. The North Tower went up in 1982, and the East Tower was built in 1994. All 3 buildings were L-shaped 12-story structures. However, the South Tower contained the most units, with 136 condos and a penthouse suite on the roof. The collapse occurred at 1:14 a.m. while most of the residents were asleep. First, the pool deck on the South Tower collapsed, followed by the entire western wing 8 minutes later. The collapse resulted in the loss of 98 lives, but rescue workers were able to pull 126 individuals from the rubble. According to the New York Times, flawed designs in the building's construction plans may have caused the collapse. Meanwhile, the Miami Herald blamed standing water, cracking concrete, and corroded rebar in the building's pool equipment room. Several other sources pointed towards corruption during the building process. A year after the collapse, Judge Michael Hansman approved a $1.02 billion settlement for the families of lost loved ones and those injured in the catastrophe. Number 4. Behind Las Vegas, Henderson, Nevada is the second largest city in the state. They used to be known for their high supply of magnesium during World War II, but a massive chemical fire in 1988 put Henderson on the map for a much more expensive reason. Enter Pacific Engineering and Production Company of Nevada, also known as PepCon, and their massive chemical plant located 10 miles south of Las Vegas. At the time, they were one of 2 American companies producing ammonium perchlorate, or AP, a chemical used in rocket boosters, the same kind used on the space shuttle. On May 4th of 1988, a fire broke out at the factory and ultimately ended up generating a massive explosion. A cameraman stationed a safe distance away captured the moment of the blast. A few minutes later, a second explosion sends another shockwave across the ground. This one, however, was a bit bigger than the last. Both explosions erased the PepCon plant and a marshmallow manufacturing facility off the face of the earth. It destroyed cars, downed power lines, and damaged other buildings within a 1.5-mile radius. Sadly, 2 people lost their lives in the disaster, and over 300 others got hurt. Thankfully, nobody seen in this recording was hurt in any way. In total, the fire caused over $100 million in damages, all because a rogue spark from a blowtorch lit some fiberglass on fire. Number 3. St. Simons Sound is an inlet off the southeast coast of Georgia that plays a major role in maritime trade. Massive tankers leave the port of Brunswick in Georgia and sail across the globe to their final destination. However, the MV Golden Ray's journey was cut short as it capsized only 20 minutes after leaving the port. The Golden Ray was a car carrier built in the Hyundai dockyard in South Korea, measuring 660 feet in length, 116 feet in width, and 71,000 gross tons in weight. It could transport up to 7,400 cars and had a speed of 22 miles per hour thanks to a single diesel engine and 24 fuel tanks carrying 300,000 gallons of fuel. On September 8 of 2019, the Golden Ray left the port of Brunswick en route to the port of Baltimore with 4,300 cars on board, planning to transport them to the Middle East. Unfortunately, the ship capsized 23 minutes later and began to list, but all 23 crew members and the captain survived. The Coast Guard rescued 4 of them after the accident. Since St. Simon Sound is only 32 feet deep, the ship's side likely got stuck on the seabed. Environmental concerns were raised since the ship's full fuel tanks and the 4,300 cars on board were full of diesel, gas, and antifreeze. The fuel began to be pumped out by the end of September, but only 2 tanks were emptied. Efforts to get the ship unstuck proved unsuccessful due to extensive fire and water damage, rendering the ship a total loss. The salvage operation, including cutting the ship into 6 sections and removing almost 20,000 pounds of debris, cost an estimated $840 million. According to the final report, the Golden Ray capsized due to several factors, including incorrect numbers entered into the ship's stability calculation. In other words, someone didn't check their math. Number 2. When we think of nuclear disasters, Chernobyl and Fukushima are the first that come to mind. But in 1979, a nuclear reactor in Pennsylvania decided to have a meltdown before it was cool to have a nuclear meltdown. It was called the 3 Mile Island Nuclear Generating Station, built in Londonderry Township, Pennsylvania. The tiny town of only a few thousand people sits along the Susquehanna River. 3 Mile Island is, in fact, a 3-mile island in the middle of the river, and on that island, they built a 3-reactor nuclear power plant in 1968. The plant opened in 1978 after the second of 3 reactors came online to produce electricity. Around 4 a.m. on March 28 of 1979, a mechanical failure triggered a chain reaction, leading to the partial meltdown of Reactor 2. The water pumps that were supposed to cool the reactor malfunctioned, and inefficient design plans caused complete chaos. Apparently, they used the same alarm sounds for several different emergency situations. Radioactive gases escaped into the community, and a massive steam geyser erupted through the top of the plant. Thankfully, nobody got hurt in the disaster, and doctors have never linked any health issues to the accident. The cleanup took 12 years and cost over $1 billion, or $2 billion as of 2022. Coincidentally, a Jane Fonda film called The China Syndrome came out 2 weeks before the 3 Mile Island meltdown. It was about a fictional meltdown outside of Los Angeles. The nuclear industry at the time dismissed the film as far-fetched. Number 1. As of January 2018, more than 500 people from 37 countries have gone to space. The majority of them are American and Russian, followed by a few Chinese and a handful from other nations. However, space travel is a challenging and risky endeavor. Most people remember the Challenger disaster of 1986, but another incident in 2003 was just as fatal. On February 1, 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia, carrying 7 crew members, disintegrated upon re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, exploding in a massive fireball. An investigative board discovered that a large chunk of insulating foam had fallen off the external tank and hit the left wing shortly after the Columbia's launch. This wasn't the first time this had happened. According to NASA, the foam had fallen off during previous missions, resulting in minor to potentially catastrophic damage. NASA came under heavy scrutiny for ignoring this issue. During Columbia's re-entry, the wing damage allowed hot gases to breach the heat shield, destroying the internal wing structure. The space shuttle became unstable and eventually broke apart. According to the LA Times, the investigation and cleanup cost the government $400 million, while the destroyed shuttle itself cost $2 billion. Later that day, President Bush announced on TV that Mission Control in Houston had lost contact with the Space Shuttle Columbia and that there were no survivors. To watch a similar video, simply click the link displayed on the screen right now. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to join us in the next video.